workers want to see more in their paychecks. But at the same time, we have a fiscal responsibility to make sure that when we write a check, you can cash it.
Workers are expected to end their strike tomorrow night. The Dow is up 184 points. S&P ahead 1. This is CBS News.
Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get the parts and service you need fast from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
This message comes from Viking, committed to exploring the world in comfort. Journey through the heart of Europe on an elegant Viking longship with thoughtful service, destination-focused dining, and cultural enrichment on board and on shore. With small ships that bring travelers closer to the destination, there's more time to explore. And every Viking voyage is all-inclusive, with no children and no casinos. Discover more at Viking.com.
Get ready for Cinco de Mayo with Total Wine & More, your cocktail central. From margaritas to cervezas and tequila, we've got everything you need for the perfect fiesta. With the lowest prices for over 30 years, you'll always find what you love and love what you find. Only at Total Wine & More.
Drink responsibly, B21.
Get 5 quarts of O'Reilly Full Synthetic Motor Oil and a MicroGuard oil filter for $29.99. In-store only. Limit supply.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Do you love WGNS Radio? Well, now you can watch it too. WGNS Big G TV brings your favorite radio shows live and on demand. From breaking news and community talk to Rutherford County's top local sports. We've got it all right at your fingertips. Watch anytime, anywhere. WGNS Big G TV, where radio comes to life.
FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro. FM 100.5 Smyrna. Audio and video streaming at wgnsradio.com. This is the Roundtable. A look at the news, views, politics, and people that are shaping Rutherford County.
And good morning and welcome everybody to the Tuesday morning Roundtable show with Rick and Wayne. And Joy, you listening to us every week. This is our 3-year anniversary show. And
Amen.
And we got a great guest with us today to celebrate that 3 years.
Yeah.
Hopefully it'll keep it spicy and
right.
have to take a 5-minute recess. That's what we're talking about, right? How are you, Wayne?
I'm fine. Good morning, Rick. Man, I love this weather. What was it? Low 80s yesterday.
Oh,
it's supposed to be low 80s today. You know, the neatest thing is it's as green as you'll see it right now for the rest of the year. And I just nature is amazing. So, but yeah, 3 years. You know, telling Brian before the show that when they asked us to do this, thought, hey, you know, maybe we'll get to do it a year, you know, and and here we are at our 3-year anniversary, and I'm just hey, thank you, Rick. This has been so much fun for me. So I'm grateful to get to do this with you, and of course grateful to WGNS and Brian for having us. So again, thank you, bro.
Same here, buddy. Thank you, and Brian and everybody here, Scott and them at WGNS for giving us this opportunity. I just think it's been great and it's been fun, and hopefully we'll keep this going for a while.
Well, and I hope that we're bringing something a little different. You know, with our primary focus on the northern end of the county, and you know, sometimes we'll have guests that will, you know, affect the entire county community, and I just look forward every Tuesday to get to share, you know, our love of this county community and the people that we get to be with. So
I agree.
So this morning, like I said, we have a great guest. I don't expect you and I to have to do much talking today, because he's been doing this a whole lot longer than we have, and would like to welcome our state representative Mike Sparks, Smyrna alumni, former business owner, and just welcome, Representative.
Yeah, thank you, Wayne. Thank you. Congratulations on your 3-year anniversary.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Man, I didn't know it's been three years. I'm honored to be the guest at the 3 years, you know. So That's cool.
How long you been doing your show up here?
20 or 22 with.
The answer is too long.
Too long.
Just kidding.
Too long. Yeah.
I set you up for that.
It's been 16 years that I've been here full time, and so I know we were doing it at that point.
What was weird is that I would listen to WGNS, and I remembered it was Gloria Christie. Y'all know Gloria Christie? Shackless Photography, Gloria Christie.
Yeah.
And great lady if she's listening. And I had just got elected on the county commission. She asked me if I'd come on the radio with her, and I'll be honest with you, I was scared. I mean, I don't know if y'all first come on, I was nervous because you never know what somebody's going to call in and ask you or trip you up. And I'd hear Casey Clark. Y'all remember Casey Clark?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'd hear Casey wear everybody out. Wear out the sheriff, wear out the mayor, wear out whoever you were, he was going to wear you out. And he'd have some tough questions. And I remember I was like, okay, I'll come up. And I was nervous. And I said a prayer. I said, Lord Jesus, take care of Casey Clark for me. I don't want no problems from this guy. And the first day we became friends, I ended up preaching his funeral.
Oh, wow.
I ended up speaking his funeral. There was about 8 or 10 people or guys that were there. And man, it was one of the coolest funerals I was ever at. And if anybody knew Casey, I mean, he played guitar and grew up at Todd Lane, right behind where you lived, you know.
That's right.
And they own that old farm where the school is. And they sang an old hymn that I've really become fond of. It was his favorite hymn. It was called Mississippi Poor Boy, and it says, God's been good to me, and by the Cantons, Mississippi Cantons. And Bart Walker was beside me, and it was just, everybody was African Americans. We were only 2 white folks there. Now, there was another guy like 200 feet away. It was a big crowd. And I told Bart, I said, Bart, you ever been to a black funeral? He goes, He goes, no. And I said, dude, we're fixing to get down this place. This is going to be a concert. I mean, a celebration of life and a funeral. The music was so loud. I literally thought these windows can break at any moment. But Casey was just a great guy. You know, we did 2 remotes at Rosenwald School, little reunions up there, not far from where Rick and I grew up over near Todd Lane off Mason Tucker at the new park they built over there, and done a great job as a replica. But shout out to Casey and his family, Mary Appleton and others. And Casey was just, you know, I guess the reason we got along is I could kind of empathize with his frustrations, you know, growing up in the community. He never even had a car or driver's license, but he never had a job. He just played gigs. And the pastor talked about him contributing back to the community, would, you know, give people money, donate to the church. And they said, but he always had money on him. You know what I mean? So shout out to Casey Clark. That's my story, how I got started.
Cool.
You know?
Hey, traditionally, of course, you've been around for a long time, but, you know, we may have some audience listeners that may not know your exact background. They know that you're a state representative and you've been there. I guess you're the senior member of the delegation now.
I guess I am. I'm the only one with grandkids.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So I'm feeling old.
And but maybe, of course, you graduated from Smyrna High School in, 85?
85. Mm-hmm.
And Rick and I always have a little competition about our classes. And
you were?
72.
72.
89.
89. Yeah, because Felicia was 88? 89? I should know.
No, she was 88.
88, yeah. Times have changed.
Yeah. So you grew up, you went to primary school?
Smyrna Primary.
Okay.
Rick went to Smyrna Primary.
So Mike and I grew up 1 street apart.
Okay.
I can see his house from
our house is backed up. There's a field in between us that Sally Walls owned.
Okay. Yeah.
We backed up.
She's developed that. Well, she did develop it. She's since passed, you know. I was over the other day at the Atkins house.
Yeah.
You know, Doug passed away.
So what was the student population at Smyrna High School when you were a senior in 85?
The whole school was 1,200.
Maybe.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I think our senior class maybe 400. Is that?
Yeah, we always stayed around 400. And then we went down in the 200s when the school split. The 89 graduating class was his first year of LHS in Smyrna. So it was
so you were at the new school.
We were, my senior class was
okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. That you remember growing up and you had the Laverne guys there and Smyrna folks and Laverne was a little different, wasn't it?
I'm not quite sure what you mean.
It was a little different. Laverne,
you are talking to a Blair over there.
I forgot. Okay, let's change the subject, man. How did the Braves doing, by the way? How's them Titans doing?
The Braves was really stinking it up, but they've kind of come
Turned
on
the corner.
here.
Pitching's coming on.
Yeah. I mean, they were 1-8 or 1-9 for a while there, and then they hit a streak like they won 7 or 8.
I forgot there's a lot of Blairs in Laverne.
There's a few. Of course, before the show, we'll delve off into maybe our home place in Scotland at some point.
Oh, that'd
in time.
be cool.
But just growing up in Smyrna, northern Rutherford County, it was, of course, when I was a senior, and I've said this several times over the air, that when I was a senior in '72, after Seward had phased out, there probably wasn't 3,000 people in the town of Smyrna. But and our senior class, I think, was 178 or something like that.
Wow. So you were Joe Wall's younger.
Joe Walls was a year behind.
So George Wall's in your class?
No, he was several years older.
Oh, okay. Harry Gill was 68, 69.
Well, he graduated. His senior football season was 67, but he graduated in 68.
Okay. Yeah.
So 4 years ahead.
But I think we grew up in a time I wish our kids could do.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, how much drag racing do you do out on San Marino?
Me?
It was just a 2-lane road.
How many people you write tickets to, man?
It was not the city limits then, but it did at some point.
Yeah, it was different. It's just there was no cars on the road.
Yeah.
I remember my father, he grew up during he was in World War II, and he said they had a motorcycle cop in Oklahoma, and they would drag race, and he would watch them, and he just pulled over, and it's just different time. And, ironically, I had, illegal street racing legislation last year, so it's a little, sometimes I think, okay, am I being hypocritical?
Times change, huh?
But it really is a different day to day, because these folks on I-24, man, if anybody's seen them,
believe me,
it's terrible.
So with that legislation, are you seeing any? Have you heard any impact or success stories?
We get the thing frustrates me with government. We get going so fast, and it's like. I talked to, and that was a bipartisan legislation. It was Representative Jason Powell's idea. Mm-hmm. Now he doesn't want to take credit for it, but Jason, he's a Democrat, so he knows it's going to be a little challenging for him to get anything passed. So he came to me, hey, Sparks, will you help me with this? Because we share the I-24 corridor, and so we end up partnering together with creating this illegal street racing task force. We had testimony of a widow who lost her husband, and he was only 33. He was an Army combat medic and got killed by, they estimate the guy was doing about 100 mile an hour, and hit him broadside, killed him, and left some kids behind. And so we had her come up and testify, and the media, because the media is a big part of getting the information out to solve problems today. And the media was very fair about it and covered her testimony. So shout out to Jason Powell. I mean, Jason really is a great guy, former football player out of Colorado State, and he can often be a real harsh critic, So that's probably why it's hard for him to get a bill passed as a Democrat. You got to kind of walk that line, I guess, for them. But yeah, I'm hoping it would try to come up with creative ideas and solutions to try to help solve this and get these people, off the streets.
What I won't, maybe not perplexed, but they're going up and down 24. 90 and 100 miles an hour weaving in and out is just common. So when these choice lanes happen, which lanes are they going to be driving like maniacs? Is it going to be in the choice lane or?
Well, Krause, Dr. Krause, him. I've been on with him a few times, and a great guy. If folks don't know Dr. Krause, he comes Thursday mornings. He's Jennifer Krause, Channel 5's father and or daughter, and he called them Lexus lanes, Cadillac lanes out of California. But I don't know how that's going to be really implemented. It's going to be a huge task. Very expensive. I mean, the Democrats want to call them toll lanes. We call them choice lanes, because you have the choice to go through them. But I know something's got to be done. I-24, as anybody that works in Nashville, if you're coming from Murfreesboro, you better plan hour and a half to get there. I know when I was taking class at MTSU, it would take me an hour and a half to get from the Capitol to MTSU, and then find a parking space, and then walk to class. But for me, it's an hour on a pretty good day.
I do not, and I'm more on the interstate than I really want to be, but I'm not on 65 and 40 as much as I'm on 24, but I do not see the same reckless number of drivers on 65 and 40 that I do 24.
Oh, I'd agree. I'd agree.
1,000%.
Yeah. Well, Brian Terry.
Why would that be, I wonder? What do you think?
I don't know. What do you think?
I think it's I think Rutherford County's got a younger population than what 65 and Williamson County's got. So you're getting the younger drivers that you're seeing that are doing that way. And it's a culture thing. So if you figure what cars are passing and what kind of cars they are, it's more of a culture that we have here in Rutherford County that causes that versus some of the other counties. Now, I do on Williamson County or Wilson County coming in from Mount Juliet. I've run into some over there, but obviously I don't travel it as much as I do 24. But I just think it's a culture issue that we've got. And that I-24 corridor is known online for what they do out there with the, where they've stopped traffic out there and done their donuts and everything else. It's kind of known to be the place. There's a guy that has a TikTok thing that makes his living off of the clicks he gets by the way he drives on I-24.
Well, I hate to see, because as young back when we were young guys, we done some kind of dumb stuff, and the cops would get on to us. They might write you.
Don't include me in that.
But you look back, and
you did not want to have to call Riley Blair if you got incarcerated. I would just stayed there and said, "Hey, just feed me and keep me warm, because I'm not calling my daddy."
No way.
Well, but we had mentors like Sally Walls growing up. I mean, she was our neighbor.
Yeah.
That lived by us, and we would get outside the line sometimes, but back then, even when I started in the 90s as a police officer, we had a thing called discretion. Mm-hmm. So if you knew mom and dad, Sally and several of the other officers were all intertwined within the community, and they were community people that they knew our parents. And a lot of times it didn't take us getting a ticket or go to jail. It was a phone call to our parents, and she would wait till the end of the shift, and she may go home and call Mike's mom or my mom and say, "Hey, I ran into Ricky today." And
you remember that whistle she had?
Had a whistle. Well,
her regular whistle.
Yeah,
she could. Can you whistle like that?
Oh man, I sat there at her kitchen table at night, and if you've ever known Sally sitting around that kitchen table, it could take 10 minutes. It could be 3 hours.
There wasn't 50,000 people in Smyrna back in that day either. So
different. I'd put that on. I tried to tag you on the Facebook. My mother-in-law, somebody stole her checks out of her mail.
Yeah, I saw that.
Well, she was mailing checks to IRS and something else, and somebody pulled up. So I just took the video and I threw it on. It's got 11,000 views now, and so I'm hoping we'll try to catch this person. But I thought back to my own life. I remember hanging out with a boy that was really rough, a bad guy, and he stole my driver's license, and he stole Sally's checks. Of all people, steal Sally Wall's checks, and because he was hanging out with Lonnie, and Lonnie was just really, God rest his soul, he was really pretty wild. I mean, he had a good heart, but he was really wild, and it was written with my name, on Sally's checks. I thought about that this morning, but she knew I was straight up, and she knew I didn't do that, and I remember her calling me. I was like, I didn't know how somebody stole my driver's license, and I thought about that boy that hung out with me, and it was him, and I think he took off to Kansas or wherever he left, but
it wasn't Mike Carpenter or whatever.
Who?
It wasn't Mark Carpenter.
No. Mark lived with Sally for a while, Sally took him in. Sally took a lot of people in, but it was a different day.
Sally was my cousin, by the way.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
It's another one from Laverne.
Oh, yeah, right there.
Well,
on the edge.
The Rock Springs community.
Yeah, exactly.
You had the Johns and the Blairs and the Britons and, we just had our own little enclave right there, I guess.
Who's the attorney? Is it Terry? Was it Waldron? Is it Waldron, the attorney?
Oh, Steve. Yeah,
Steve's
a cousin. So he's a distant cousin as well.
Well, I remember him telling me that they all played football together in the yard. You ever heard that? I don't want to say on the air what he told me, but anyways, I'll put it this way: she didn't care. She was tough, man. Play with them guys, and maybe he can let you know what he told me. But it really wasn't bad. So not something I want to share on the radio. But she was tough. I seen her wrestle with Lonnie and Pat Bells when they were throwing them around like rag dolls, man.
Yeah, you didn't want to mess with her.
Hey,
and
tough, man. We're just good old farming people.
Awesome. Yeah,
and like he said, she had a whistle.
Yeah.
And we had this land that was out behind us, and if them boys were gone, Brooks or Lonnie was somewhere, she'd come out and whistle, and we could tell by the tone of the whistle if it's a good one or a bad one, man.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
okay.
they dropped and went.
I don't know that ever. I don't know that I've heard the whistle. But
it had that tune. It would go, and she would do it real loud and come back down.
Well,
there you go.
I can tell you, I worked as a busboy and a dishwasher at the Woodshed restaurant back in the day, and of course Sally and Major Walls. You know, I couldn't go into the hay baler room, but I could wash the glasses.
Yeah, because you helped us when we named the road after Major Walls. You were there. Yeah, because you spoke. Had a few other people there.
All right, Mike, we're going to take our first break. It's 15 minutes going by that quickly. You're listening to Representative Mike Sparks. We got him on our show instead of his show today. But,
all right.
We'll be right back with you in just a minute.
At Turner Security, we bring cutting-edge protection with live video monitoring, access control entry, advanced camera systems, and intermedia IP phones, all designed to keep your business safe and connected. From small businesses to large enterprises, our expert team ensures seamless integration and around-the-clock monitoring, because security isn't just a service, it's our mission. Turner Security, powered by TechCore.
Choosing the right insurance can be overwhelming. That's where Rick Hall at Rayburn Insurance comes in. At Rayburn, we're not just about policies, we're about people. Rick Hall will take the time to understand your needs and find the best coverage at the best price. We've been serving our community since 1973. So why not let Rick Hall take the stress out of insurance? Rick Hall at Rayburn Insurance Agency, where you're more than just a policy number. You're our neighbors.
This is a paid legal ad.
Hi, this is John Day of the Law Offices of John Day. I've lived and worked as a lawyer in Middle Tennessee for over 30 years, and to me, every single day has been an honor. That's why our firm is so involved with community programs like bicycle helmet giveaways and our Safe Ride Home program. At the Law Offices of John Day, we're not just looking to make donations. We want to make a difference in the community we hold so dear. And if you're ever injured, know that we are here for you too.
This is Good Neighbor Events with Bart Walker. Brought to you by AmeriCare Pest Control and the Law Offices of John Day.
I've got pests.
AmeriCare is Rutherford County's #1 choice in pest control, and it's simple to see why. After calling 893-7111, their staff came to my house 8 years ago when I had an insect problem. They looked at the situation, showed me the areas, and what they'd recommend to resolve the problem. After treatment and with quarterly checks, I'm bug, critter, and creepy crawly free. Thanks, AmeriCare.
Call the best of the best to get rid of your pest.
AmeriCare, 893-7111.
Let's check those WGNS Good Neighbor events. And the countdown to the farmers market, it begins Friday, May the 9th. The Red Cross is still critically low on blood. Please give the gift of life at the Red Cross. There's a free grief support group that meets every Wednesday morning at 10 over at the St. Clair Street Senior Center. Wednesday mornings at 10. Oh, there's coffee and conversation about local history every Saturday morning at the one-room Ransom Schoolhouse. It's presented by the Rutherford County Historical Society. So learn more about this community. You need to be there. It's free. The Ransom Schoolhouse is at 717 North Academy Street here in Murfreesboro. The Middle Tennessee American Muscle Car Show is coming up Saturday, May the 10th at the VA Hospital. and the show benefits veterans. People keep asking us, when is Spring Fling? Spring Fling is May 20th through the 23rd. And the Parkinson Support Group meets on the first and third Friday of each month, 10 o'clock that morning, at the St. Clair Street Senior Center. Those are WGNS Good Neighbor events.
Rutherford weather.
See a few scattered showers and thunderstorms possible late this afternoon. Partial sunshine develops, a high in the mid-80s. Tonight, chance for storms, a low near 65. I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki on News Radio WGNS. Currently, it's 75.
WGNS is powered by Middle Tennessee Electric. MTE has a solar expert and energy services supervisor to help its members understand if solar is right for them and help members avoid possible scams from outside parties. Learn more at mte.com/prosolar.
This is the Roundtable from News Radio WGNS on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna. Listen and watch at wgnsradio.com.
And welcome back to the second segment of Tuesday Mornings with Rick and Wayne. And again, it's our 3-year anniversary show, and we have the pleasure of having Representative and Smyrna alumnus Mike Sparks. And thank you for being with us this morning, Representative. And had a fun time to that first segment, but I think we're having just as much fun off the air as well.
Oh, yeah. Well, some of these things we can't share on there.
Maybe, you just finished the legislative term. Would you like to talk about that a little bit?
Well, I was ready to get out. Session gets really stressful, and sometimes you have bills that get killed, they don't pass, and people start getting upset. People are passionate. A lot of lawmakers up there are passionate, and that's why they ran for office, is to make a difference. I think most of them do. So I'm ready to wrap up. I think we passed some good legislation. My school bus bill that I had worked really hard on this year was taking the age from 25 to 21, and I was going to amend it to 23. We passed it on our side. Thank you to Representative Tim Rudd for helping me get it out of committee, and Robert Stevens as well. Then it fell by one vote in the Senate, and I was at a Chamber of Commerce meeting the other day. Somebody asked me about it. I said, well, to be quite frank about it, I said, if I'd have hired lobbyists, that bill would have passed. And I hate to say that, especially on the air, but we have a shortage of school bus drivers. We're seeing some what they call the PRZ zone. We're seeing the school board deal with some of that, and but that piece of legislation for me was going to be difficult, because if the state changed that law, if you remember when the Chattanooga bus crash happened, I believe it was 6 kids were killed, and tragic event. Many were hurt, but I'd argue that guy shouldn't have been driving a school bus.
Yeah, he had a history.
Yes, terrible history. Even students complain on his driver. Parents complain. Someone should have intervened before that tragic event. So with the state, and this is what gets me upset with government many times. So their idea to solve the problem was move the age from 24 to 25. Mm-hmm. That's how they thought they're going to solve the problem. And I was really upset with the commissioner. I told him, I said, look, if Jeff Long, and I like the commissioner, but I said, look, if this bill fails, I'm blaming it on y'all. So here's my opportunity, Jeff Long. It's the commissioner, Department of Safety for the failure, and we do have a lack of drivers. And so I agreed to amend it to 23 to make it better. But the uphill battle is I'm undoing the chairman of transportation's piece of legislation. So anytime you're undoing that guy's legislation, that's his baby. Sure. So it's automatically a conflict. Then I got a conflict with the Department of Safety on this. Then I got them testifying against me. But I had Lowell Russell, great guy. He was hit. He was a former trooper and was hit in his patrol car and almost died. And he's a lawmaker. He was very supportive. Showed me data where a lot of the severe crashes aren't the younger drivers. Sadly, it's the older drivers. When you look at the data. But we had the votes on the House on the floor, but the Senate, it fell by one. We'll recap and get back up there. And shout out David Settles. David, he's on the school board. I talk about I call them God-wink moments, synchronicities, extreme coincidences. I happened to do an interview with Channel 2 about this legislation back in January. David happened to call me, invited me to Dr. King breakfast, and I called him, and I said, hey, when is it? And he was telling me, and I said, hey, won't you come on the radio the next morning? Because I was up here with Brian, and he said, what time? I said, about 10:20 to 11. He said, man, that'll be great. That'll allow me to finish my school bus route. I was like, school bus route? I didn't realize he was a school bus driver. So, I mean, now was that just, I didn't mastermind that. The Lord put that thing together. David gave great testimony. And then a young boy, Mayor Reed, put him in touch with me. Isaiah Heineck, I believe his name is.
It is.
Is that, all right, always want to drive a school bus. He come up testified. So the testimony really helped. We didn't have the testimony on the Senate side. If I'd have had somebody to really help me organize and get on that side, it probably would have passed, because that testimony is powerful to just get real life experience with folks. And David, he drove it in Antioch. That's his route. But Metro was short 72 routes, and I think the average capacity of some of us is 80, 82, I think. So you're looking at what 6,000 kids could be potentially. I mean, that's going to be extreme, but it could happen with the shortage of drivers. So we do have a severe problem. I'm going to come back next year, and hopefully we get that passed. But that was the biggest frustration I had this year. Opportunity scholarship, that passed. The more increase for mental health. I think the teachers they'll be getting their $2,000 bonus, I believe, July 5th, somewhere in there. I've had a few calls on that from school administrators and teachers. And Robert Stevens had a good bill about the census, which I was really proud of. And that came from good collaboration with the town manager, David Santucci. Santucci, am I saying it right?
That's right.
Okay. So I was telling Robert, I mean, that's how it should be. Mm-hmm. Have discussion of people that's on the ground, local. They're seeing what's going on. You have solutions. You bring it up. It's not a Republican Democrat issue, and we help to solve a problem that's going to save the taxpayers money. And Brian was kidding me about Bob Freeman putting me on the spot on it. Bob was kind of cutting up with me, but I just said it's a good piece of legislation, because we are the fastest growing districts in the state of Tennessee, and the infrastructure has just been hit really hard, and it's economically just totally unsustainable unless we start getting creative.
Well, you brought up being sarcastic in some way, but it's the truth. We can't get anything done as far as a county or a city or a municipal government now without a lobbyist up there at Capitol Hill. When do you see the day that you guys are going to end up having to have your own lobbyist to get your own bills going through?
I mean, there's a good argument.
You got a bunch of individual ideas, and it's not getting anywhere.
Yeah, you do have that argument, because I know for me, just juggling family, grandkids, and business and other issues, other things I've got going on. Went back to school, and I'm gonna try to get back to graduate program. So you have your own issues you're trying to deal with, and your own mental health issues, because mental health's been a serious issue in our culture, and it gets frustrating. I'm known to drop some profanity. God forgive me, I try not to, and but these things matter. I mean, you get passionate, because you hear people dying of fentanyl, you hear people losing their job, you hear somebody taking care of their mom that's battling cancer, you hear the hardships, and then you want to do something, and then sometimes you feel like others don't care. And I brought up taxpayer-funded lobbyists. I mean, I don't know if y'all are aware of this, I had the affordable housing study, TASR study, and I've ran 3 TASR studies, one on childhood sexual abuse, and affordable housing, and the other one was, what was the other one? It was on, I think it was textbook affordability, and we did that. And but I literally had taxpayer fund lobbyists working against my affordable housing study. It really happened. You talk about they had to stop the committee. I got upset, and I didn't drop no profanity, but I just said, this is like one of the most critical issues, and nobody is talking about this. And I said, there's lobbyists here, so don't worry, I'm not going to call your names out. And they were in the audience, and I knew they had talked to every member up there. And it's risky, for me to do that, to go off in a committee, because I'm really ticking off every member, because I said, every one of y'all, these lobbyists have talked to, haven't they? And they take a recess, and but I thought, man, this is going down. I've lost this argument. And they said, Representative, can we roll this a week? You're at the chairman's, and the committee's discretion. So I rolled it, but I prayed about it, and then I asked the Lord to help me. And hey, I come back in that next week, and they never would make eye contact with me, because you can read body language, and they were like, the bill came up, dropped the gavel, passed, and they just moved on. But I mean, other than mental health and addiction, affordable housing probably is, in my opinion, probably the second biggest issue that we're facing as a culture.
So what's the solution? We talked earlier about Journey Home here. They're building a new facility, I think, with 18 was what we're told, 18
about 18
units.
beds.
Yeah. And then, of course, it's very prevalent in Davidson County, but I'm a little surprised at the number of people that are panhandling, here in the city of Murfreesboro on so many street corners and stuff. So, the homeless problem or the homeless issue continues to grow. And so as far as what your legislation, how does that help?
The study. Well, one of my favorite scriptures is in Proverbs, where there's for lack of vision the people perish, but the multitude of counselors, there's wisdom. And I just seen, Cliff Sharp just left out, and they're, what you see over there is just awesome, what they've done over there to help folks. I mean, some people, let's face it, want to live on the street. I mean, there's a few people just within a golf ball throw of here, or hit from here, that I've tried to help. And you can only do, I think, so much. But what the study come out was just bringing people to the table. Jeff Peach, attorney for Smyrna, he's on task for bringing people together to where you have a really in-depth solution. That's what I've been arguing with the county. Create a task force, create an ad hoc committee, whether it's solid waste or other issues, which I think when we were on the commission together, we did a solid waste task force, if I'm not mistaken, to just bring people together. But I think getting outside people, maybe, like I always say, Mark Lewis, he's former engineer. Mark's heart is in the issue. You don't want to put somebody on a committee that just shows up to get a per diem, or just shows up because they want to be on a committee. And I've witnessed that happen. But we had a meeting of the day, and it was Gallatin Mayor brought up our task force study, and she knew the study better than I did. I'll just be honest. I said, well, I think it's, I said, I forgot how many pages. She goes, 139. Like that. And I was like, wow, the Gallatin Mayor, they're dealing with infrastructure hits and just like we are. And but just bringing people to the table. But if we don't start getting creative, it's like Einstein said, you can't solve the problems of today with the same methods that you created that caused it. So to get creative, that's what I like about the chamber events, and just bring people. Well, like right now, there may be an idea that come out of our discussion here today. I've seen that kind of stuff happen. The childhood sexual trauma, that came from Scott Walker. He kept wanting me to take on the issue, childhood trauma, the end of the statute of limitations. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't want to talk about it. As a man, I didn't want to talk about this kind of stuff. It just was not comfortable for me. But as a lawmaker, and even with y'all doing this show, and as a former county commissioner yourself and school board member, and Rick on the county commission, sometimes conversations are often difficult, but you gotta have them.
Well, and the difference you've probably seen from being on the commission to a state leader now, when the lower you are, and I look at if you're on a council position or if you're a commissioner, you're the lower level. The people that can touch you versus the state level, you're not as much. And I mean, Rutherford County's, we're staying in the local news between the landfill now for several months, and now we're on there every night about the school board's decision with the personal responsibility zones and the school bus contracts, and that was all bought by a representative out of Weakley County that made a bill and said that that counties could never keep the general liability on a bus independent contractor anymore.
Yeah, I think it was Hamilton.
Yeah,
I think it was.
So now we don't have an insurance company that'll take it on because they said, well, you already got a law, so we're not going to insure it.
Yeah, Iris reversed that. It did get reversed though. Yeah, it's reversed now.
But the insurance companies now won't take it on.
Well, I hadn't heard that part, but I know they reversed the decision because I was getting co-sponsors to support it. No, there's some serious issues with school buses.
Rutherford County had sent out the RFP, to get a price for the coverage, and that didn't include it at that time because it had not been reversed as when they sent out the RFP.
And I don't know
and
why.
now trying to get it added in after the fact, has
Princeton said no.
Has become problematic.
And that's where good journalism, Brian, hates me putting down the media, but that's where a good journalist would call and go interview that sponsor of that bill last year. So, where'd this come from? It could have been, a contractor. It could have been some group wanting to take over. So you just never know. You know what I mean? Where a piece of legislation came from, and but even my legislation. I mean, somebody brought up the school board that dropping it from 25 the age to 21 is it going to affect insurance? And the contracts felt like it was going to be okay. So going to 23 is only going to kind of help that situation. But I'm hearing that with nonprofits, some of the insurance. I mean, y'all in the industry have probably, y'all cover any NGAs, and they're saying their costs are going up so much. And
liability lawsuits are up 47% on insurance companies having to pay these payouts. And unfortunately, you're seeing in your rate increases.
Yeah.
In your personal lines and commercial lines. So I hate going to a break, but we're up against our second break. But this is a good topic to be on. You listen to Representative Mike Sparks with the Tuesday Morning Roundtable with Rick and Wayne. We'll be right back with you.
At Turner Security, we bring cutting-edge protection with live video monitoring, access control entry, advanced camera systems, and intermedia IP phones, all designed to keep your business safe and connected. From small businesses to large enterprises, our expert team ensures seamless integration and around-the-clock monitoring, because security isn't just a service, it's our mission. Turner Security, powered by TechCore.
Progressive knows if you have to choose between everyday life and your RV, RV wins.
What, are you going to take the RV to the mountains or go pick up your dry cleaning? RV wins! Are we cleaning the gutters or taking the RV camping? RV wins! Are we getting a new passport or cruising up the coast? RV wins!
Don't forget, you got that trip to Sweden coming up.
Oh, yeah, passport, then RV.
With Progressive, you can bundle your RV with your home or auto and save with a discount and spend more time enjoying those savings in your RV. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers. Not available in all states and situations.
I want to learn how to cook, but I keep ordering takeout.
Accomplishing goals is hard, but when your goal is to learn a new language, Babbel makes it easy. In just 15 minutes a day, Babbel will help you start having conversations in as little as 3 weeks. Words and phrases you'll actually use. So when someone asks, "How's your French going?" you can say,
Babbel facilite grandement l'apprentissage d'une nouvelle langue.
Now save up to 50% on your Babbel subscription at Babbel.com. That's Babbel.com.
This is Kim Dunaway from Sunshine Nutrition Center. You hear me on Monday mornings at 7:20 talking about how to lead a healthier lifestyle. We carry supplements, personal care, and grocery items at both our Murfreesboro and Smyrna locations, family owned and operated since 1989.
This is Chip Walters, and I'm honored to be your 2024 MTAR Realtor of the Year. I'm with Exit Realty Bob Lamb & Associates, and like many of you, I've seen the real estate market shift and change. People often ask, Chip, what's really going on? Well, that's a great question, and I believe in answering with solid, factual data. So let's cut through some of the noise. I invite you to reach out. Let's have a conversation about your real estate goals and the current market trends in your neighborhood. You can find all my contact information at choosechip.net.
This is Pastor Nikki Ajapong, lead pastor of Holy Hill Chapel.
Here are sermons on WGNS Sunday night at 7:30.
Our sermons are loaded with the keys of the kingdom. If you don't have the keys, you'll be stranded.
Visit Holy Hill Chapel, tn.org to hear our podcast.
We're visiting with Jennifer Sanchez, manager of Steered Straight 2 Furniture and Thrift at 1007 Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard.
You're not just walking into just a big warehouse. You're walking into rooms. We've got a media room. We've got a boutique room. We've got a vintage room, a furniture area, kitchen, all that.
Steered Straight 2 Furniture and Thrift.
Every day you go in there, I promise you it's changing.
Steered Straight 2 Furniture and Thrift, 1007 Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. Online at steeredstraightthriftstore.org.
This is the Roundtable from News Radio WGNS on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna. Listen and watch at wgnsradio.com.
And welcome back to the third and final segment of Tuesday Mornings with Rick and Wayne. And certainly been our pleasure to have Representative Mike Sparks, Smyrna alumnus and just all around good guy.
Well, thank you. You know, I probably shouldn't share this on the internet, but I'm on the radio. But Mr. Rakes got mad at me the other day.
Yeah,
You ever got chewed out by Mr. Rakes?
No, sir. I've made sure that I've stayed on his good side. Same way with Mr. McWilliams.
I didn't know Mr. Mac. I heard stories, though.
Yeah. Hey,
I heard.
Mr. Rakes, don't want to get on his bad side, but Mr. McWilliams was terrifying.
I had heard. Well, speaking of mentorship, wasn't Mac Williams a mentor for Mr. Rakes?
Oh, yeah. Mr. Rakes, when Mr. Mac passed away, Mr. Rakes became the principal of Smyrna High School.
He got a little upset with me. He says, Mike, I was at Crackberry. He was on his walker, and I was meeting with a guy from Nigeria. I've been trying to help for about 5-6 years, and he wanted to buy me breakfast. So we were meeting, and I said, hey, Mr. Rakes, how you doing? He goes, Mike, I'm really disappointing you. And I was like, I was shocked. Well, what's that? He said, well, I called you a while back, and you didn't take much time with me. I said, Mr. Rakes, I was on the House floor. I was on the floor of the General Assembly. I mean, I can't like leave. I mean, I took your call, and he was so mad at me. But I'll be honest with you, man, it really hurt my feelings.
Well, yeah.
I mean, it really did.
Hey,
I was like, oh my
I don't
God.
want Mr. Rakes upset with me either. So
You know, and I was like, Mr. I'm so sorry. I said, and he said, well, you didn't, you know, I said, I was on the phone with you probably six to 8 minutes. I'm sorry I couldn't be, you know. Phone.
Wait a minute.
He was upset.
I've never been on the phone with you just for 6
I had to let it go,
minutes.
man. I know, but I had to get back because it's like I missed the
So if I want to talk to you, then I need to call you while you're on the floor.
Yeah, so you're sitting down, you've gone to the bathroom, and you got something to drink.
Well,
you're good to
you
go.
know, but I told Ms. Rakes, I said, I'm sorry, Ms. Rakes. I said, did you know about my mentorship resolution yesterday? My father's resolution on the House floor that I passed. I said, you know about my K through 12 mental health legislation? No. I said, well, the media don't tell you these things. They don't really want to cover real issues. But it really, at that moment, it kind of, I mean, it was like being chewed out by your father.
Oh, certainly.
I was like, oh my gosh. And I said, Mr. Rakes, I said, your example was good for me because I can remember seeing him. If somebody threw out a Snickers wrapper, he was going to go walk over and pick it up. I said, I catch myself. I don't go pick up trash all the time, but I mean, if I see something, I'll grab it and go throw it away.
Just pride of his profession.
Yeah.
You know, pride in his school, his community. I mean, just.
But then I got him back. You know what I did? I got him back. I had a secret weapon. I told him, I said, Mr. Rakes, I said, you know, you hit me more than my own father did. And I was kind of really sad looking. He goes, huh?
Oh, gosh.
I said, you hit me more than my dad did. And he looked at me, and I think I got him. His feelings hurt. And I said, you know, you paddled me twice, and it wasn't even my fault. And I told him that years ago. He was at Rotary, and I said, it wasn't even my fault, which both times, seriously, weren't my fault. And some guy was cheating off me, and then the guy got in a fight with a guy, and it was really.
Well, let me just interrupt.
He said, yeah, I know. He said, because that guy put on the multiple choice, I don't know either. That's what Mr. Rakes said. I was like, wow. That's
I can tell you that you did not want a paddling from Mr. McWilliams. He fought against Rommel back in North Africa in World War II. He was, I don't think he was as tall as I am, but his forearms were big as my calves, and he made my Uncle Howard cry.
Really?
And Bubba was probably as tough a kid I knew. Just one time, strand of barbed wire broke when he was putting up fences for the cows, and wrapped him up like a snake. And Bubba just cut it off of him, nearly a whimper. And I'm thinking, but Mr. Mack made him cry, so I knew I was not going to get a paddle.
Well, I didn't cry on the paddle, but it dang sure hurt.
Mr. Mack would have made you cry.
It hurt. Speaking, I know that y'all want to do a history museum working on it. You know, I offered Mr. Rakes he was at our high school reunion. Offered him $100 for his paddle. I sat with him. I didn't get up there and dance with Danny Tullis and all them, acting like you're still in high school. I'm chilling with Mr. Rakes, and I said, Mr. Rakes, I'll give you $100 for that paddle. He goes, no. And I started thinking about something. You know what? I'll give you $1,000 for that paddle of yours. He looked at me and goes, no. He wouldn't take it. I offered him another $1,000. I offered him $1,000 here a while back. He come to our prayer meeting at Sam Davis' home. But have y'all talked to him about his paddle? I think that's what he wants to do, is donate it to a museum.
That would be cool.
You know.
It's so hard right now, the way the economy is. I mean, I've reached out to business owners and places and trying to find a spot. And, I mean, I've got some money set aside now, and the framework's there, but it's just a location.
Yeah.
And, you know,
and
I think if I had $1 million right now, we would still not have us a location.
You'd have plenty of stuff, I think, to put in it.
Yeah. Where can you, because Roger and I were talking about this, and somebody else was talking about things being donated. Where is there a place right now to donate, like to store it?
I don't want to be a storage chest.
Yeah,
I mean, when something happens. I have people call weekly, and unfortunately there was the old funeral home in Smyrna there off of Front Street. I just went blank on the name, but a family member passed away, and Hoover had a lot of their old records. I mean, from the 1800s.
Really?
And it was the billing records. So you saw the family names and what those costs and everything else, which is not really, I guess the book would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
But, you know, I got with John Lodell with Rutherford County Archives, and I've turned it over to them now to preserve that, and they'll digitize it and things like that.
You've been over met with, is it Danny Hoover back behind the Smyrna Pawn and Gun?
Yeah.
And he's got a lot of stuff over
He
there.
does, but he wants to give some stuff. But again,
man, you need to have his.
We don't have it. We need a spot. And I don't know what that.
Troy Ross's mom, Jim Ross. You probably go to church with Jim Ross and Jean.
Mm-hmm.
Man, she was sharing stories with me years ago about driving an ambulance at 14 without a driver's license. I mean, some crazy stories. And I want her to come on the radio. She was kind of shy, but maybe she might come up with, because y'all Church of Christ, right? You knew what to say about Church of Christ, right? Y'all stick together. You ever heard that?
We what?
Y'all stick together? The church, surely you've heard that.
Well,
evidently not.
I mean,
y'all just keep it to
I think
yourself.
as Christians, we kind of
Church of Christ stick together.
Okay.
I mean, seriously, I've seen the camaraderie with Church of Christ people.
Okay. I just
if
thought
Pattis Reed is listening, he'll agree. You know, he'll agree.
Hey, I want to bring up
something.
Not
Cool.
change the subject. You wanted to bring it up because you really are passionate about this, and that's the dumping issue that we've got going on. And you posted the other day, and
it makes me
brought
sick.
it up to me.
Well, you know, we run legislation a couple of years ago. Ironically, it was my bill, and it was mattresses that they use in the photo. If you just Google, I guess it's illegal dumping. Forrest Sanders put it together, and he used a mattress over there by BJ's. I mean, it's literally on the ramp right there. And but I think really it may have been Commissioner Carl Boyd and Anthony Johnson, maybe Trey Gooch, that was one of their issues at steering. You know, that's why going back to dialogue and collaboration and having discussion. And we ended up running that bill. I had a Democrat pass it on her side, Heidi Campbell, and it just gives a judge more discretion, and it's based more on volume. You know, with mattresses, that sort of thing. But we had a guy. What road was that? Florence Road.
It was
Florence, and he dumped off a mattress and box spring, and I think he peed in the bed a lot because it was really, you noticed a lot of stains on the mattress.
You looked at that video a lot closer than I did, buddy.
Yeah, but I think the Mayor Reed, I think she posted it. The video was at her. Somebody posted it, and people started sharing it, and they caught the guy.
Well, a guy named out said, "Oh, that's so and so," and sure enough, it was. So
then also, well, anyways, we did increase that. So, but I remember back in the day where if you done something stupid, the judge you walk and pick up trash. You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Put you in.
You still can, but they just don't.
You know,
you've never changed the law that says they can't go out here.
They're supposed to have discretion to be able to do that. To build, you could fact check me on it if you don't mind. But whatever judge that goes before, I'm hoping that he'll use the legislation that we passed to prosecute that person. But I just hate that we have folks that'll do that, because even Charlie Baum, there's a big recliner off I-24 right there, the Lighthouse Christian right there at the bridge, and it sat there. We brought it up T-Dot in the meeting, and Charlie brought it up, and Charlie I love Charlie. He's a little bit more mild-mannered. He don't really, I mean, he don't get, confrontational. But I told him, when Charlie brought it up,
in Smyrna, man.
I was like, and I was like, wow, I was impressed that Dr. Baum, he's professional academic, But then there was a mattress that sat there, and anybody that travels are like, yeah, I know the mattress you're talking about, right for Hickory Hollow on the left. But I don't know, man. I say bring back the Tennessee trash commercial and the Indian commercial. Remember the
that
Indian?
was a great commercial.
Oh, yeah.
The Indian commercial and the Tennessee trash commercial.
We're talking about how times have changed. I
just need to recirculate those commercials.
Well, the
don't
political
change them.
correctness
Just
is so
recirculate.
bad. Well, I was in a graduate class 5 years ago, and two little students brought it up, and they said, we wanted to use that, but it was racist. I'm like, I'm looking around. Here I am, 50 years old, 50-something years old in a class with 20-year-olds. I'm like, racist? And, man, that commercial, that made me.
It was impactful.
It really impacted me. I was like, oh, these.
But see, that's why nobody picks up trash anymore.
You know?
Yeah. It's mental health, and I have trauma. I can't pick up trash on the side of the road, and if I sweat, I'll pass out, and they got to call an ambulance out there, and then there's an argument over who pays for the ambulance. Is it the county or the city or the person's personal insurance? So it's just softness.
Yeah.
A lot of that, you know.
Sure is. But
well, your dad was your dad was a lot older than you. I mean, how old would your dad be today if he was alive?
Man. He's born in 1916, so he'd been.
Dude, really?
Yeah.
Jesus, man, my dad was born in 1920.
Yeah.
As young as you are, and your dad, man, how?
He was 55 when I was born.
Wow, he kind of had it going on, didn't he?
He could.
50-something years old.
I'm 54, so I got to feel his thing.
Man. Yeah. But no, you were kind of raised. Well, that's you. I never really thought about that, because being raised by, like, my father grew up during World War II and the Great Depression. There was a different mentality back then. You suck it up, move on.
I mean, I can remember being 5 and 6 years old with my dad at 60 and 61, and I played t-ball, and my dad was in there handing out water and was involved.
Yeah, good for him.
At 61 years
your dad
old.
worked at Capitol, right?
Yeah, he brought Capitol down there.
Yeah, my dad was out there. But your dad was like a big shot.
He was. Yeah, he was.
I remember my dad had his own parking space. I remember driving over on his Gold Wing. I was probably 10 and thought that was cool. The old back where old Smyrna Beach is.
Yep.
You ever play over at Smyrna Beach?
I did.
You know,
I still go there on my kayak sometimes. It's a little grown up, but
yeah, they brought the sand in from Panama City. Is that right?
Oh, I don't
Pensacola?
know. Flew it in on a B-29.
Yeah, that's pretty cool that they done that. But anyways, those are different days, you know.
I wish they'd bring that back in a lot of ways. I don't know if you've been through Nicest Meal or something on a Saturday or Sunday now, but they're parked up and down Leanna Swamp Road because of the number of people
that's going
at that dam.
Wow.
And
now, is that where y'all start your horseback when y'all ride?
Yeah, we can go behind the house, or we'll go over East Fork or
there.
Central Valley or any of that right now.
Yeah, well, you know the old Jefferson, what's the East Fork?
East Fork
the trail. That's the trail y'all take, right? Well, that's the trail I've seen y'all
all part of that. Yeah.
Man, there's still picnic tables out there, and the boat ramp, and I guess the federal government had closed it down. What, in the late 70s?
Well, East Fork, no, just did it less than 10 years ago. It was the state doing cuts, and they come in there and said, "Hey, we're going to do cuts," and they shut all that down.
Wow, you know, infrastructure's still there. You know?
I know we're about to wrap it up here, but what's the big issue come next January?
Next January
that you're aware of at this moment.
I mean, for me, it's I'll get back on the school bus issue, and I'll go back. You know, addiction, more funding for mental health and addiction recovery, and really just people having more dialogue and discussion, kind of like what y'all are doing here today and with others, you know, to just find solutions. I'm as conservative Republicans the next guy, but I think if a Democrat's got a good idea, let's roll with it. You know, if a civil libertarian's got a good idea, let's roll with it. Republican, and just start having better conversation. And really, I think the bottom line is this country needs a little bit more Jesus, and I'm telling you, man, I think there's a country song about that.
I certainly concur with that. Amen.
Can I make one recommendation, and I'll help you with the bill?
Yeah.
We got to get our state prisoner bill per day, per diem.
We did get an increase on that. I forgot how much. It ain't a lot, but it's
Rutherford County's averaging now over 1,000, and that jail was never so.
And what's that new jail going to cost?
They're still working on it. There's next week's a big meeting that starts a conversation about it. But
new prisons are expensive.
If we get that state money up, it sure help.
You know,
God bless you for your service.
Thank y'all. Well, I appreciate y'all, and congratulations on your 36-month anniversary. My wife and I just celebrated 36 years.
That sounds a lot, 36
Yeah, it sounds a lot.
3 years is just 3 years, but 36 months.
Amazing that Brian's been able to tolerate this long, Rick.
You know?
Amen.
Hey.
You know, but congratulations.
Well, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate
y'all,
it, man.
Appreciate y'all.
Hope everybody enjoyed the show. We'll be back with you again next week as usual. Have a great week.